Framed for drugs by a corrupt cop, Ethan Brooks fought back against a system rigged to silence him. When a hidden recording exposed Officer Sullivan's chilling setup, the courtroom gasped. Will justice prevail? Watch this viral trial unfold now. Hit subscribe. Ethan Brooks, a blameless man, faced arrest by police without any proof against him. When he chose to resist and seek justice through a lawsuit, he was unaware he'd confront a system determined to suppress him. Then, a stunning revelation emerged. Could he triumph in his quest for fairness, or would the might of authority crush him? Where are you tuning in from? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. Tomorrow, we've got another gripping tale for you. Now, let's plunge into this riveting story. Ethan Brooks always strove to lead a simple, upright life. He wasn't flawless, nobody is, but he'd labored to become someone he could respect. A dad, a breadwinner, a man who knew the world wasn't always just, yet refused to stoop to its lows. He stayed low-key, clocked his hours at the warehouse, and returned to his 12-year-old daughter, Lily. She was his everything, the drive behind enduring fatigue, the reason he bit his tongue when life dealt him unfair blows. He'd vowed to shield her, ensuring she'd grow up knowing her father was honorable. Yet, vows sometimes crumble under reality's weight. That evening was meant to be routine. Ethan had just ended his shift, perspiration still damp on his skin from grueling work. He paused at a gas station, picking up a water bottle before heading home. Cleveland's streets were hushed, the air heavy with late summer calm. Suddenly, everything shifted. Red and blue lights pierced the night. Tires squealed sharply, and a stern, commanding voice shattered the quiet. "Show me your hands." Ethan pivoted slowly, a familiar dread gripping his chest. A tall, sturdy officer stepped from the patrol car, hand near his holster. A younger officer trailed behind, his face unreadable. Ethan lifted his hands reflexively. "What's the issue, officer?" The senior cop, badge reading Sullivan, advanced, his gaze cold and probing. "You fit the profile of a suspect we're after." Ethan's stomach sank. He'd heard that phrase before. He'd seen its consequences. Deep down, he sensed this wasn't about any profile. "I just left work," he said cautiously, voice steady. "My ID's right here." But before he could move, Sullivan seized his arm, jerking it backward. The younger officer wavered, shifting uneasily, but stayed silent. "Don't move," Sullivan growled, tightening his hold. Anger flared in Ethan, sharp and burning, but he suppressed it. He'd long learned rage didn't help in such moments. Instead, he concentrated on breathing, keeping his tone calm. "This is a mistake," he said. "Please!" A push, and his chest slammed against the patrol car's hood. Handcuffs clicked coldly around his wrists. A voice called out nearby. "He's not fighting back!" Ethan glanced sideways, spotting a bystander filming with a phone. Sullivan spun, his face darkening. "Stop recording!" The bystander hesitated. "I'm allowed to film." Sullivan stepped closer, his mere presence quelling the protest. The phone dropped, the video ceased, and Ethan felt utterly isolated. They shoved him into the squad car without explanation. His heart raced, but he willed himself to remain composed. He'd done nothing wrong. They'd verify his ID, see their error, and release him. Yet a nagging doubt crept in. He'd witnessed others in his community endure this. He'd seen the innocent jailed because no one bothered to care. As the car door slammed, Ethan gazed at Cleveland's lights blurring by. Would he be next? In his living room, Ethan stared at the legal papers strewn across the table. His fingers drummed softly on the scarred wood, a tick when fear battled fury within him. All his life, he'd dodged trouble, met expectations, followed rules. Yet trouble had hunted him down. The marks on his wrists were fading, but that night's burden lingered. The shame of being pinned down, The young officer's averted gaze, the squad car door's icy clang, as if his fate was sealed before he could protest. He understood the game. He'd seen it play out. Innocence was irrelevant when the system had already judged. Filing this suit wouldn't just mark him. It would drag Lily into the spotlight. Neighbors would murmur. Some would back him. Others would deem him foolish. But what else could he do? Ignore it? Act like it never happened? No matter how diligently he played by the rules, he'd always be one misstep from being treated like a felon. Not this time. That's how he ended up facing Sarah Bennett, an attorney who'd made her name tackling cases others shunned. She'd challenged officers with records of abuse, uncovered rot deep in police ranks. She'd won battles deemed impossible. Now she observed him closely, gauging not just his story, but his determination. She'd met men like Ethan, taught to endure, to survive, not to resist, and knew the tempest he was entering. "Ethan," she said, edging forward, voice firm, "you need to grasp something before we proceed. This isn't only about you." He exhaled heavily, steeling himself. He'd anticipated this talk, but it didn't ease the weight. "If we move forward," she went on, "we're not just suing one officer. We're defying a system that guards its own, and they'll hit back." Ethan's jaw tightened. He knew the stakes. They'd unearth his past, spin the narrative, paint him as the antagonist. They'd ensure the world saw him as a statistic. He breathed slowly, thoughts racing, not with dread, but resolve. He pictured Lily. The men before him denied a voice. He recalled every time he'd stayed silent, let things slide. Not now. He met Sarah's eyes. "I'm not here to be a martyr," he said softly, voice resolute. "I just want what's right." Sarah assessed him, then gave a slight, understanding nod. "Then we'll start working." Ethan knew filing the suit wasn't the toughest part. What followed would be. It began quietly. At first, the change was subtle. Hesitant tones, dodged glances, hushed talks when he entered. The cashier who'd once bantered now gave a curt nod. The neighbor who'd waved now crossed the street quickly. Then, the headline struck, each more brutal. "Career criminal sues cops after stop turns sour." Troubled man accusing police has checkered past. At his kitchen table, Ethan clutched his phone, rereading the words as sickness churned within. A checkered past? One arrest at 19 for a false charge? No conviction. But facts didn't matter. The stories omitted the lost footage. They ignored that Ethan faced no charges that night. They skipped the bystander's attempt to film. None of that suited their tale. They crafted him as the issue, not the wronged. The story was fixed. He was volatile, they claimed, seeking fame, chasing cash, causing trouble. The truth was smothered. The lies weren't the worst. It was how fast people bought them. Ethan didn't see the extent until Lily came home, pausing at the door. "Dad," she said softly, wary. "My friend's mom banned her from visiting today." His breath hitched. "Why?" "She saw the news," Lily said. "Said you're stirring trouble." Ethan's fists clenched beneath the table. He forced a smile, voice even. "That's not true, honey." Lily nodded, but doubt lingered in her eyes. That moment struck him. Not just his pain, but hers. On TV, Cleveland's police chief stood at a podium, cameras flashing, voice steady. "Let me be clear," he said. Officer Sullivan followed protocol. This was a regrettable mix-up, but our officers acted correctly. We support them. Ethan switched off the screen. Correct? That's what they called pinning him to a car hood, erasing a bystander's evidence. His phone pinged. A text from a friend. "Drop this, man. It's not worth it." He saw their plan. This wasn't just about the suit. It was about ensuring no one trusted him. If they won, he'd lose before reaching court. Ethan expected an unfair fight, but not how swiftly fear spread, how easily silence was coerced or purchased. The first clue came when he sought the bystander who filmed his arrest. That video should have been ironclad proof, untwistable by headlines or speculation. But when Sarah contacted the man, his voice was tense. "I can't help," he said tightly. Sarah pushed. "You filmed it." "You saw it." A pause, then a sigh. "Cops came to my place," he confessed. "Said I was obstructing, threatened arrest if I didn't give up my phone." Ethan's heart sank. "They forced me to delete it," the man whispered, then took my phone. "When I got it back, it was wiped." Ethan's fists balled. He'd guessed as much, but confirmation stung. "Will you testify to that?" Sarah asked gently. Silence. "I can't," he said. "I've got kids. Sorry." Like that, his best evidence vanished. It didn't end there. Sarah reached out to others who'd dealt with Sullivan, past suspects, locals who'd complained, ex-officers who'd quit. They had tales of brutality, intimidation, cover-ups, but none would speak. Some refused outright. Others ignored her calls. One man, who'd reported Sullivan years ago, agreed to talk, then backed out, texting, "Can't do this." Sorry. Fear was prevailing, just as they intended. Ethan felt it closing in, a repeated, silent warning. "Back off, abandon this. You're alone." But one person stood firm. David Carter was there that night, beside Sullivan, silent. Yet his hesitation, his uncertain posture, lingered in Ethan's memory. Now, facing him, Ethan saw it. Remorse. "I know it was wrong," David said, voice strained. "I knew it then, and I do now." Ethan eyed him. Young, early 20s, uniform fresh, not yet jaded. He looked drained, as if this choice had worn him down. "I'm not lying," David said. "Testifying will cost me. The department will shun me. My job might be done." He exhaled, shaking his head. "But staying quiet makes me like Sullivan." For the first time in weeks, Ethan felt a spark he'd avoided. Hope. "You'll go on record?" Sarah asked. David nodded. "Yeah," he said, throat tight. "I'll speak the truth." Suddenly, Ethan had a shot. It struck a week before trial, late at night. Driving home, Ethan's mind was heavy with exhaustion. The suit, threats, Lily's anxious glances, they weighed on him. But he clung to the truth. Then, sirens. Red and blue lights flashed in his mirror, a grim alert. Ethan's grip tightened on the wheel, heart pounding. He wasn't speeding, hadn't broken laws. But that didn't matter, did it? He pulled over, pulse hammering. 2 officers emerged. Ethan didn't know them, but that meant little. One neared his window, the other circled back. "Get out," the first ordered. Ethan kept hands on the wheel, voice calm. "What's this for, officer?" No reply, just a sharper command. Dread settled in. He complied slowly. The second officer opened the trunk. Before Ethan could react, the man held up a plastic bag with white powder. Cocaine. His breath stopped. "That's not mine," he said, voice firm despite rising panic. The officer grinned. "Sure." Ethan knew. This was planned. The classic frame. Ruin the man who won't quit. Taint him before court. His mind spun. Drug charges would bury him. Lies would outrun truth. Man suing cops nabbed for drugs. By trial, his words would be worthless. Despair gripped him as cuffs clicked. He scanned the empty street. No witnesses, no cameras, just him against a system that had judged him. Then, a thought hit. Lily. What would she believe seeing him on the news? Sarah was at the station before processing. When Ethan reached the cell, she was pacing, phone to ear. Seeing him, she spun, voice fierce. "They think they've got us," she said, eyes ablaze. "They're wrong." Ethan gave a wry chuckle, sinking onto the bench. "How do we prove those drugs aren't mine?" he asked. Sarah faced him, her resolve absolute, steadying him. "We'll uncover what they didn't expect," she said. Hope flickered anew. David Carter gripped his steering wheel, knuckles pale. Parked outside Sarah's office for 10 minutes, he stared at the door, urging himself to act. His stomach knotted with the choice ahead. He'd sworn to protect, serve. But what did he do that night? He stood by as Sullivan slammed Ethan down, stripping his dignity. A week ago, hearing of the drug frame, Sullivan's locker room boast, too easy. David stayed mute. Until now. He exhaled, stepping out before doubt won. Inside, Sarah sat at her desk, eyeing him sharply as he entered. She was wary. He understood. "We need to talk," he said, closing the door. She leaned back, arms folded. "Speak," she said. David sat, throat dry, pulse racing, but pushed forward. "I can't stay quiet," he said. "Sullivan's done this too often." Sarah stayed still. "Keep going," she said. David swallowed. Complaints about him, force, fake reports, pile up for years. The department always clears him. It's not just Ethan. It's a pattern. Sarah watched, waiting. "Why speak now?" "I heard them," David said, breath harsh. "Sullivan, others, laughing after Ethan's arrest. Sullivan called it his easiest frame." He pulled out his phone, fingers pausing, then played the recording. Sullivan's voice echoed, "Court? Good luck with drug charges. Too easy." David stopped it. Silence hung. Sarah stood. "This goes to trial," she said. Relief hit David. Ethan now held the advantage. The courtroom was hushed, tension thick and stifling. Every seat held journalists, activists, Cleveland officers, and locals who'd tracked the case since Ethan's arrest. At the defense table, Michael Sullivan sat, face blank, lawyers like a shield. He seemed unfazed, as if untouchable. But Ethan wasn't that man from the squad car. Beside Sarah Bennett, who'd spent years toppling officers like Sullivan, he was ready. Today, she'd prove their fallacy. The prosecutor rose. "Your Honor," she said, "the defense claims Officer Sullivan followed protocol. Evidence says otherwise." She turned to a screen. "Here's what happened that night." Silence deepened as grainy footage, recovered from a deleted bystander video, played. Ethan stood in the gas station lot, hands up, calm. Sullivan charged, shoving him down. Ethan's voice, steady, asked why. The reply, force. Cuffs snapped. A gasp rippled through the crowd. No resistance, no crime, just a man detained for being there. The video ended. Sarah stood. "No fight, no offense, just a man denied a question," she said to the jury. Sullivan shifted, but Sarah pressed on. "One more piece, Your Honor," she said. At the prosecution table, David Carter rose, pale, hands tight, but strode to the stand with purpose. He glanced at Ethan, seeing trust, then faced forward. "Mr. Carter," the prosecutor began, "you were there for Ethan Brooks's arrest?" "Yes," he said firmly. "And you have evidence for the court?" He drew his phone, thumb hovering, then played the recording. Sullivan's voice boomed. "Court? Let's see him try with drug charges." Too easy. Shock swept the room. A gasp sounded. Sarah let the silence linger, the words' weight sinking in. She turned to the jury. "This isn't one rogue cop," she said, voice steady. "It's a system shielding him until now." Ethan felt for the first time that justice was near. The verdict arrived swiftly. After under 3 hours, the jury returned, faces stoic. Ethan sat rigid, hands clasped, the moment's gravity heavy. Across the room, Sullivan was still, his lawyer whispering, but his usual smugness was gone, replaced by unease. The judge spoke. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" A woman, 60s, gray-haired, stood, eyeing Ethan, then Sullivan. "We have, Your Honor," she said. A tense pause. "On charges of power abuse, evidence tampering, and illegal arrest, we find Michael Sullivan guilty." The room exploded. Gasps, Murmurs, a shout. The gavel banged, but Ethan barely noticed. His chest tightened, his eyes blurred. He'd braced for failure, expecting the system's betrayal. Not today. Sullivan's sentence stunned many. 12 years, the judge stressing his breach of public trust. It didn't end there. Weeks later, Cleveland's police faced an independent probe. Old complaints about Sullivan surfaced, ignored misconduct exposed. Top brass scrambled, but failed. Several resigned, including the chief who'd backed Sullivan on TV. The system wasn't shielding its own anymore. David Carter faced instant backlash. Testifying cost him his badge, his role. But he stood firm. Months later, Ethan saw him in the news, advocating police reform. David had risked all, lost much, yet kept fighting. Ethan's victory went beyond court. He'd proven the truth. Cleveland owed him more than apologies. The settlement secured a fresh start, a new home in a safe neighborhood where Lily could thrive, where Ethan's name earned respect, not scorn. One night, unpacking in their new house, Lily set a framed photo on a shelf, an old picture of them, from before the struggle. She looked at him, eyes questioning. "Are we okay now?" Ethan knelt, tucking her hair back. He thought of Sullivan's kind, of fights ahead. "No one's ever fully safe, sweetheart," he said softly. "But we're free." Lily nodded, accepting it. For the first time in ages, Ethan exhaled fully. The Cleveland courthouse steps swarmed with reporters, cameras flashing, mics aimed at Ethan, Sarah, and Lily beside him. The case had rocked the city, drawing national eyes. The world watched for what followed. A reporter stepped up, voice curious. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "will this change anything?" Ethan glanced at Lily, her hand in his. He'd fought through fear, fatigue. He'd won, but knew it wasn't over. He met the reporter's gaze, voice steady. "One case won't fix the system," he said. "But without my voice, how many more Ethan Brooks would be silenced?" The press paused, then buzzed. Cameras snapped, questions flew. Ethan's focus shifted. Across the street, a crowd gathered, diverse, holding signs high, chanting for justice, change. Lily tugged his sleeve, reading a banner. "Justice is a right, not a privilege." Ethan absorbed the scene, their resolve, their unity. For the first time, he believed the world might shift. As the sun set behind the courthouse, Ethan stood tall, Lily's hand in his, certain his fight mattered. If this tale stirred you, if it sparked thoughts of justice, truth, or unheard voices, don't stop here. Smash that like button to show support, and share this with someone who needs it. The more who see it, the more dialogue we ignite. For more real-life stories like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Your support fuels us, driving stories that matter, that demand to be heard. Together, we keep justice's fight alive, one story at a time.